Hi everyone, in this video we're going to have a look at how to extract financial statement data from the Bloomberg terminal. I'll then give some tips and tricks on how we can analyse ratios with the help of Bloomberg, and as a little added bonus, maybe I'll give you a little hint on how you can get ESG data through the Bloomberg terminal as well. This might end up being a long video, but let's see how it goes. First things first, I need to pick a company to research. Now, many of my students love to pick Apple as an example in class, so let's pick an Apple as the example in the video. Let's just very quickly check that we have found the right company, and by the looks of it, this is the company that's made my iPhone, so we're okay, we're good to go. The tool I need is the FA function, financial analysis. I've got the security loaded, so let's run the function. Now Bloomberg gives me some summary data. Maybe I'm interested, maybe I'm not. But if I'm in for a penny, I'm also in for a pound. So I can use the tabs to view the income statement, the balance sheet, and the cash flow statement. What Bloomberg is doing is standardizing balance sheets to their own particular format. It's a very American standard format. And this makes it very easy to compare companies with companies. If that standardization is troublesome to you, you can hit as reported and get the original filing. Personally, I quite like the standardized function because my research causes me to compare banks with each other. And if I can have standardized line items at every bank, no matter where it is in the world, it comes in really handy. If you don't know what any of the lines mean, just right-click, hit definition, and you get a pretty decent clue. That's one feature I loved as a student because I wasn't very good at accounting in my student days. Now, this is great because I can access all of this in Bloomberg. The problem I have is I don't want to live in the Bloomberg lab my whole life. So it would come in handy to get the data out of Bloomberg. Now, my first choice, if I just want this on a piece of paper, is to hit Export PDF Current Template. What this will do is give me a very neat looking PDF file. I can just send that to the printer. And if I want to write on it with a biro, that's perfect. The only problem is this isn't really formatted as a neat table. If you try and copy and paste that somewhere, it's going to turn into an ugly mess. What you will be better off doing is going Export, Excel, Current Template. It's always a little slow, but it does get there. And there you are. Now, what I would do well to do at this point is just show you one trick. If you look carefully, the cells contain formula. These formulae are able to run on a Bloomberg terminal because these are Bloomberg query formulas. If you run these at home, you'll just get a whole sea of error messages. The way that we can actually get around this is to select it all, hit copy, then hit paste values. If I do that, what actually happens is I lose the query formulae and I just get the numbers. If I now save this, I can access that from home. So that works quite nicely. Okay, so that's how I get the data out. So now let's move on to some of the additional functionality the terminal has. Now, in the old days, students had to calculate financial ratios manually based upon the free financial statements. Bloomberg has its own ratios tab and it's divided into subgroups. For the sake of an easy example, let's look at some liquidity ratios. So I hit liquidity. Well, okay, current ratio is a very simple ratio. Current assets over current liabilities. If I don't know that, right-click, hit definition, and it tells me the calculation method. Now, there are three ways I can calculate ratios. The first is to look at the value itself. Sometimes that has meaning. In the case of the current ratio, it certainly does mean something if it's below 1 or beneath 1. Your homework is to find out what. I can analyze the variance across time. So I can see in the last few years, there's a drop off in liquidity in this company. And I might want to look into that a little bit more. So maybe I go to the balance sheet, I look at the inventories line and see how that's evolving. Well, if I'm going to compare over time, I can hit the chart icon and get the chart of the ratio value over time. But there's also another thing I need to do if I'm comparing ratios, and that's compare similar companies. That's the third way we can interpret ratios. Well, maybe if I'm looking at Apple, I want to compare to Microsoft. Is Microsoft similarly liquid or illiquid? Well, I need a separate function for this. It's called Graph Fundamentals, but rather happily, there's a link for it right here. So let's just click that. The data has now moved from annual data to quarterly data. If I really don't like that, I could change it, but I kind of like it. Let's add another security. So let's search for Microsoft. I happen to know that is the correct mnemonic, but if I didn't, I would open another tab and check. I've now got the two companies' liquidity current ratios, one on top of the other. Look very carefully. The scales are different. You cannot eyeball them. It is very dangerous to do that. Safest way forward, get all the data plotted on a single panel. Now we can compare the two. Well, apples are green, and Apple seems to have been plotted in green, so that's quite nice. Microsoft's been randomly plotted in this blue color. If I do want to change it, I can right-click. Well, I guess Microsoft's principal color is blue now, but it's a darker blue. That looks a little bit psychedelic as well. It doesn't really do a lot for me, but you can keep fiddling until it's pretty. Now, the best way that I can get this out of the Bloomberg terminal is just to right-click, copy image to clipboard. I can then paste it into a document. It comes in as an image, and I can write about it and describe what it is. You have to describe anything you get out of Bloomberg because the labeling is quite bad on Bloomberg charts. So you get around that with a good description. Now, that's how I'm able to get some basic ratio analysis done, and that saves me a lot of calculator bashing. Now, let me just go back to the financial analysis function because I can show you one little Easter egg before I'm done. There's an additional tab here called ESG. If I do want to try and get some information around environmental performance, sustainability, or quality of governance, this is where I'm going to be able to do it. These are by no means standard accounting ratios. You won't find them in accounting textbooks. But what you will be able to do is right-click, find out what the Bloomberg measure is, and you can compare them in the same way as the ratios. That's why they're in the analysis tab. You can look at the performance based upon the meaning of the measure, the performance changing over time, and comparison with other companies, same three approaches. So if that's something you are interested in, that's a good thing to know. Okay, I hope this video is useful. I don't want to drone on too much longer. I think at some point we'll make a separate video around ESG measures because there's a lot more information in the terminal. But I hope that helps, and if you are doing coursework, best of luck with it. Bye-bye.